What if the most striking film was one you couldn't see? One that immerses the viewer to make connections through acousmatic sound without any visuals. Looking at Batman, Dunkirk, and Interstellar, sound engrosses the viewer and helps shape how we feel and understand the narrative. Through the theoretical frameworks of Timothy Corrigan, Christian Metz, and Walter Merck, we realize how impactful sound is to our consumption of media. So we started wondering to each other, why does sound work so well with these films? What's the secret ingredient? We looked to the theories of Corrigan, Metz, and Merck to help us break this down. Timothy Corrigan tells us that realism comes from what we feel is real. Whether it's sound of a door creaking or loud footsteps, these effects affect our emotions more than anything else, even when the screen is black. Christian Metz? He helps us understand how acousmatic sound can create suspense and mystery. This is big in the Batman because you hear him before you even see him, which makes you feel like he's bigger than life, right? And finally, Walter Merck, the guy who thinks editing is like an emotional rhythm and natural. Let's first look at the Batman, where sound plays a big part in the narrative. What are the loudest things you hear? His echoing and heavy footsteps makes the sound of him walking become the threat. Metz's work is pretty evident here. We hear Batman before we even see him, heightening the tension in the scene. The chase scene here between Batman and Penguin is another part where the sound is the spectacle. The noise of the Batmobile engine is very loud and to some quite overwhelming. You don't even need visuals here to know what is going on because the sound is completely driving the tension. You can kind of feel the scene, right? We certainly do, and that is where Merck comes into play because of the film's rhythm guiding the story. Then there is this dangerous silence before Riddler kills, showing how the absence of sound can also be used as a looming threat. Yes, the Batman does use sound as a threat, but what if sound was used as a ticking bomb? That's what Dunkirk does. There is this constant ticking sound throughout the film that basically makes up the structure. The tick reminds us that every second matters, which is a perfect example of Merck's theory that rhythm has a lot of emotion to it. We also know the danger before we see it. When the enemy plane is approaching the beach, or the gunfire happening in the distance, Metz's theory comes into play again. This acousmatic sound builds suspense and tension before we even know what is going to happen. Notice how there is some contrast where sound goes quiet and then gets sharp. This is emotion, and this sound design is the actual dialogue. The manipulation of sound in Interstellar is unique, connecting the viewer to this artificial world. Corrigan's theory of realism engages our emotions specifically in the Saturn V launch scene, where the weight of the sound traps the reader in what feels like a real-world experience.
Come on. Everybody good? Plenty of slaves for my robot colony?
This scene creates a hyper-focused vacuum where the outside shots are dead, allowing Metz's acousmatic sound to come into play. Cutting to inside Cooper's helmet, this vacuum is still apparent, focusing on his breathing and the creak of metal.
But very efficient.
Switching between this hyper-focus and realism approach, this creates tension and builds suspense through relating it to a real-world experience. In Interstellar, sound is not an addition, but a driving force that bends our sense of time and space.
Fran Doyle, back to the Ranger now.
Across our three movies, The Batman, Dunkirk, and Interstellar, we learn that sound, both acousmatic and non-diegetic, is the foundation of cinema. In short, sound is cinema's first impression. Long before we are introduced to characters, sound sets the foundation for the start in any film or media. In conclusion, sound matters in a significant way because it flips our thinking. Instead of treating sound as a decoration, it is merely an entire narrative shaping the way the viewer consumes cinema. Sound is a way to watch the movie using our senses to predict and think during the film to engage the audience more. So the next time you consume cinema, consider paying attention to the small details which propel your thinking.
Faster, Tom. I'm losing it.
Right at it.
Stay on it. Here we go.